President Trump set out a nationalist worldview on Tuesday, attacking globalism and delivering a comprehensive account of how his vision informs policies on everything from trade to abortion. The future does not belong to globalists, he told the United Nations General Assembly, a body founded on a globalist consensus. The future belongs to patriots. The future belongs to sovereign and independent nations who protect the citizens, respect the neighbors, and honor the differences that make each country unique. This time around there were no pithy epithets like the rocket man jibe he directed at Kim Jong-un during his first appearance at the UN. Nor did the audience, always a tough one for Trump, break into disbelieving laughter as they did last year at the claim his administration had accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. Instead, teleprompter Trump steered away from cheap shots and expansive claims to deliver a speech that, 3 years after coming to power, emphasized how his America First slogan was being put into practice. It suggested a systematic approach to foreign policy, according to James Carafano of the Heritage Foundation, far from the characterization of an impulsive, unfocused, ill-disciplined president. You may like his vision, you may not like his vision, but you can't say he's not doing things. You can't say he isn't consistent with his own policies and his own strategic blueprint, he said. But for all the grown-up strategy of the speech, it was not hard to spot digs at specific UN principles and a rejection of the multilateral values behind them. Globalism exerted a religious pull over past leaders, causing them to ignore their own national interests, he said. Those days are over. Such words will provide succor to the likes of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, whose efforts at extricating the UK from the European Union remain bogged in crisis, as well as other populist leaders. At the same time, the speech reflected Trump's reluctance to engage in foreign wars and the efforts of Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, to build a new liberal order based on nation-states that share prosperity and peace. The United States does not see conflict with any other nation, said Trump. We desire peace, cooperation, and mutual gain with all. But I will never fail to defend America's interests. That included tightening sanctions on Iran for its threats to U.S. national security and the wider Middle East. All nations have a duty to act. No responsible government should subsidize Iran's bloodlust. As long as Iran's menacing behavior continues, sanctions will not be lifted, they will be tightened, Trump said. He used his 36-minute speech to make his most forceful comments yet, backing pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong and called on China to uphold its obligations to the territory. Through it all ran the twin themes of freedom and trade, informing policies on everything from protecting religious worship and unborn children to resisting limits on the arms trade, specifically a UN-sponsored treaty, and China's attacks on intellectual property. He also took the chance to defend his stance on strong borders. Many of the countries here today are coping with the challenges of uncontrolled migration, he said, as he stood in the heart of an institution that champions the rights of refugees. Each of you has the absolute right to protect your borders. And so, of course, does our country. For critics, the subdued style of the speech suggested a plot to smuggle a hardline agenda past the UN. In soporific tones, Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, was spotted asleep in the audience. Trump's Soonga speeches warmed over nationalist garbage delivered like a late-night talk radio host trying to put you to sleep, said Ben Rhodes, Deputy National Security Advisor under Barack Obama. Danielle Pletka, Senior Vice President at the American Enterprise Institute, said, when Ben Rhodes says something is boring, I think that suggests that his worst expectations of Donald Trump have not been realized and that, of course, equals total disappointment. Critics would struggle to find objections to a sensible, sober, scripted speech that majored on ideas such as patriotism, she added. That was the theme that Trump hammered throughout the 36-minute speech. If you want freedom, take pride in your country, he said. If you want democracy, hold on to your sovereignty. If you want peace, love your nation. Let's block ads. Why?